with a new guest to continue discussing on this special broadcast the developing situation out there in the Middle East between Israel, Iran, the Gulf states, and other regional states. Of course, as a reminder to our listeners, you can join us and join the conversation by calling our studio line at 011 680 0355. Our WhatsApp is 061 766 0355. And you can message us on X at Salam Media. And of course, the broadcast is being live streamed on Facebook, facebook.com/Salam Media, and on the website salammedia.com/listen-live. We are now joined from Trabzon by Dr. Hamdullah Baycar, who is an assistant professor at the Department of International Relations at Karadeniz Technical University in Turkey. Assalamu alaikum, Hamdullah. It's nice to see you. I wish it was in better circumstances. Thank you for joining us.
Alaikum salam, Abdullah. It's nice to see you. Yes, I hope maybe next time we will have it in a better circumstances. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very good. How are you doing today?
I am fine. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. So, Alhamdulillah, just yesterday I was reading, about the negotiations happening between Iran and the US, and of course regional states since January, effectively Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, including of course Turkey, where you're based, and Egypt, have been trying very hard to convince the US to not start another big war in the region. Not necessarily because they love Iran for whatever reason. These are all states that have had their suspicions, have been very wary of Iranian ambitions, especially over the last 10-15 years during the war in Syria, during the situation that has been evolving in Iraq for the last couple of decades, but because they realized that the possibility of a retaliation could really be very catastrophic for the region, whether the regime survives or not. And so how are they reacting to the situation that we're currently seeing?
Yes. As you just said, all Gulf countries and Turkey were for a long time trying to convince US that an operation, as at least like a big operation, would have a tremendous negative impacts on the region. So they were trying on and on to convince the US and convince also Iran at the same time to have some to accept some terms of the US. And even yesterday, Oman was announced that the agreement is very soon, and today we woke up with the operation made jointly by US and Israel. Of course, the Gulf concerns, after the operation become was seen how legitimate it was, because at the moment they had the operation, that the Iranian part did not or could not attack directly to Israel, but it was the Gulf states who were attacked. This is partly because not the Gulf as a Gulf is the enemy of Iran, but Iran has already declared that if we were attacked, any U.S. bases in the region will be attacked. And because most of the Gulf states have U.S. bases and are under the U.S. umbrella, we woke up with the news that the Iran has retaliated by trying to attack or successfully attacking some Gulf states, such as Abu Dhabi. We have heard that at least one person has died, and they attempt to also attack Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain. So yes, these all show that if the war continues, if the operations get in a bigger position, then the Gulf stability will be in danger.
Thank you, Dr. Hamdullah. And you mentioned there, of course, that just yesterday, the foreign minister of Oman had kind of, in a sense, given us like reason to be optimistic, saying that yes, a deal is close, a deal will be agreed. And yet today, what we find out is that Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi was, and we use the quote, dismayed by what happened. He, of course, released a statement himself, and I'm quoting him in this statement, saying, "Active and serious negotiations have yet again been undermined." Of course, this has been a bit of a recurring theme in processes of trying to mediate negotiations from the side of the U.S., whether in Palestine, whether in the DRC, and in many other places as well. And continuing to quote, of course, Minister Busaidi, he says, "Neither the interests of the United States nor the cause of global peace are well served by this, and I pray for the innocents who will suffer. I urge the United States not to get sucked in further. This is not your war." How significant is it for the foreign minister of Oman to make such a statement? Oman, for the most part, has attempted to play this neutral role in the region, and has attempted to act as a very effective mediator in situations of disagreement or conflict. But for the most part, has been to some degree, still on positive terms with the U.S. So how significant is this?
I think it's significant to see like the Gulf states, including Oman, who has like even not formally recognizing Israel, like who has a certain level of relations with Israel, that the negotiations are not stopped by the Iranian part, or like the negotiations are not in a very honest, going in a very honest way. And the the announcement that he made, I think, is more to the US part, to convince US not to give like a blank check, a green card, for green light for Israel in every issues, as a gesture that to show that the Gulf is aware that the Israeli part is more creating the problem, and uh, doesn't want to get the deal or be on the table. I think in this sense, like if you look at the U.S. Domestic politics too, like it's not a consensus. Like even Trump, from time to time, even though he's the president and he's anti-Iran, he has the anti-Iran sentiments. Like from time to time, he also showed his hesitancy to attack Iran, but out of sudden. He joined the attacks, even if the negotiations were going. We saw this in June war too. Like Iran was not, US was not very keen on fighting the Israel, but like Israel did it, pushed actually US to the war, and which US also had to involve. I think the statements of Omani foreign minister, or like the general regional powers stance on this matter is this: like they want to convince the US that Israel does not want to be on the negotiation table.
Yes, thank you. And I mean, looking at as well the responses of other leaders in the Gulf, we know that the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, as well, spoke to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on a phone call today, also, where they also called for an immediate stop. Well, the term they used was an immediate halt, actually, to the situation that continues to develop, and for all parties to return to the negotiating table to kind of negotiate a peaceable settlement to what's going on. However, I mean the possibility of there being a peaceable settlement, given the fact that Israel in particular has been willing time and time again to violate ceasefires, to violate agreements, and to really push the US and its allies hard in trying to kind of hold its position. The prospects seem very limited in that regard. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yes, the Gulf states are in a very dangerous position. Like on one side, they are they are U.S. allies. Most of them have U.S. bases on their lands. On the other side, like because of this reason, before the other side, because of this reason, like they are the targets of Iran, which Iran considers as a legitimate target, as they have the U.S.'s bases. On the other hand, if they become too if they become like too anti-Iran, it might have the discourse of being pro-Israel, because like the war is not between directly between U.S. versus Iran. It is U.S. plus Israel versus Iran. So the Gulf is in these paradoxical relations. Like they don't have like very clear. Very easy part to take on. But of course, like after the attacks happened, like Saudi Arabia condemned the attacks of Iranian attacks to the Gulf region, and they promised that they will help the smaller Gulf states in case of need. Uh, at the same time, as you mentioned, like there will be a back channeling, or maybe diplomatic pressures, or diplomatic negotiations on US to convince them to stop at certain level, like to have like smaller targets in Iran, instead of like regime change or a full scale war. The full scale war has a big like it might potentially change the regional security system for good, because and it will affect the economy and security of the Gulf even like more. And like because it has like many unknown, the Gulf will try to stop this war as limited as possible, for I think, from my perspective.
Thank you, Hamdullah. Please stay with us until after the break. Hang on for just a few moments, when we will continue discussing this matter in more depth. That, of course, is Dr. Hamdullah Baycar, Assistant Professor in the Department of International Relations at Karadeniz Technical University. He will be back with us after this short break.
Many of us take an iftar meal for granted, but not everyone is as fortunate. This Ramadan, the Islamic Dawah movement
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Thank you, listeners, for staying with us throughout that short break. We continue to be joined live from Turkey by Dr. Hamdullah Baycar, Assistant Professor in International Relations at Karadeniz Technical University, where we are still talking about the developing situation right now in Iran, in the Middle East, and sort of its wider impacts. So, Alhamdulillah, just kind of going back a little bit and kind of approaching more of something of a historical question. One of the things that we've talked about a lot on the show so far was, Iran's targeting of American military bases in the region. Of course, we know that most notably the Udeid base in Qatar is one of the most significant American military bases. There's also the Salim base in Kuwait and the Dhafra base in Abu Dhabi. So just kind of thinking back a little bit, why do these bases exist? Why do these Gulf states have these U.S. military bases?
The whole Gulf states, like including Saudi Arabia, but more importantly for our cases, the smaller Gulf states, have always been linked to external security, at least for the last 100 years. Up until their independence, it was like 1970s, 1960s, depends on like the state. It was more the British and parallel to the British power in India or in general. Since 1970, U.S. replaced the British Empire in the Gulf, and the Gulf security was linked directly to the U.S. This was both against the regional threats and against like threat even from the Gulf, a possible threat, but also from time to time it was due to the Soviets, due to the possible Iranian expansion. So the U.S. bases have always been there, mostly as a sign that those states are under the U.S. security umbrella and shouldn't be touched. And actually, it is why, like Iran directly consider attacks to those states as legitimate, because because they have the military bases there, and many U.S. operations happens from. I'm still not sure if the current one happen from the Gulf bases, but like the Gulf bases, American bases have been used in many American operations. So yes. While for the U.S., for the Gulf states, they are the sign of being under U.S. security umbrella. From the U.S. side, they are signs of American empire in the world and in the Middle East.
Thank you for that. That's a very comprehensive summary of why these bases actually exist in the region, and I think that's really important for our listeners to know, because of course sometimes it can seem a bit counterintuitive in the sense that you're surrendering some of your sovereignty to the United States of America, and kind of going back to the fact that those bases are there as well. A government statement issued from the Iranian side suggested that only U.S. military targets would be hit, effectively being these bases, of course. But there are reports of Iranian strikes hitting other places, and of course, as well, Iranian missiles being intercepted on the other side of the Gulf. So what sense can we make of this?
Well, on social media, I have seen like many posts mentioning that Iran will attack such places such as Burj Khalifa, or places like where the residents or where like the Gulf investment happens. I think the Iranian announcement was mostly to delegitimize those claims and make it clear that the enmity is not between the Iran and the Gulf, but the Gulf will be targeted only through the U.S. military bases. Of course, like the the reports regarding the non-base attacks are important. Like we still don't know whether they are verified or not. This could also happen because of like the lack of strong Iranian military power too, because uh, like the Iranian military has been tested last year in June, but like whether or not it was a successful one or unsuccessful one, we couldn't decide on that, because like it continues for 12 days, and like during these 12 days the Israeli and US joint military operation like gave a tremendous losses for the Iran, in terms of like they have been able to assassinate like almost all their significant figures. But at the same time, like Iran considered itself as a successful, because like the regime change didn't happen, and after 12 days, like they need Israel and US came to the agreement of ceasefire. So like even if they have attacked non-bases places, this could be not as a result of their intention to go to war with the Gulf, but as a result of their military weaknesses. That's the point I try to make.
Mm-hmm. And so another dynamic and another kind of area where there seems to be some fallout from this situation, as well as actually on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula as well, with various groups in Yemen, Ansarullah and the like, stating that they also will participate in some form of retaliation as well. So, for example, resuming attacks upon ships within the Red Sea. And other surprises, to use the term that they used in a statement that was carried by Iraqi media. How do you see that also altering kind of the wider regional dynamics?
Of course, like when we are talking about Iran, we and its possible war with Iran, we have always actually considered its proxies. Like this can be the Iraqi proxies or Yemeni proxies, like 2 years ago the proxies in Syria or the Lebanon, but like the last 2-3 years, Israeli attacks or like indiscriminate attacks, not only to the military parts, or even to the civilian parts, I think largely like destroy. I don't want to say destroyed, but like made the Iranian proxies influence much more limited, and like maybe except for Yemeni's one, especially I'm talking about Iraqi one, less eager to go to a direct confrontation with Israel or US, as they saw what Israel can do in Lebanon or they do in Syria. I think they would. I don't think they will be with Iran like with all their powers. They of course they will stay with Iran, at least discursively, and to some extent even in terms of operations. But I'm not sure if they have so much big capability left.
Thank you so much, Hamdullah, for providing us with these valuable insights today. And hopefully we will speak with you again as the situation continues to unfold in the coming weeks, days. Hopefully it doesn't continue to unfold for too long, because what the region definitely doesn't need at the moment is an all-out total war. But thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your time, Dr. Hamdullah Baycar, Assistant Professor of International Relations at Karadeniz Technical University in Turkey. And we will be back to discuss yet another dimension of these unfolding events after this short break.